All right, welcome to the Friday night recap. Kenny Matthews is back from Florida, so he joins us on the Wizard. Professor Diggs is over there in the middle, and we are talking another wild week of football. It's going to be wild all the time. You know what? If you look at it in the general terms, there's probably, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, there's four teams in my mind that have been completely dominant from start to finish in all of their games. South Lake Carroll, obviously, at the top, Allen, South Oak Cliff, and Frisco Lone Star, and maybe there's some other ones that you guys can add in there, but that's not normally what we say by week five. By week five, we say, well, there goes Duncanville again, there goes North Crowley again, or whatever. None of them, these teams have been dominant all four or all five of their games. I mean, would you guys agree with that? Is there anybody else you'd like to plug in there before we get to scores?
Maybe Walnut Grove.
Walnut Grove has, but they haven't really had any kind of competition. I guess you could probably say the same about some of these other teams as well.
I mean, the parody is ridiculous this year. I mean, it's fun and it's good. I've been clamoring for this for a while. I want the parody because I'm tired of seeing the same teams, and they've given it to me. I mean, week after week, we're watching North Garland up on Wiley East this week at halftime. I know it did. The final was there, but Ward, you nailed it as far as just absolutely nailing it as far as just the parody driven everything. You talked about South Lake Carroll. I don't know what to make of 11-6A after this week. I don't even know what to make of 10-6A after this week. I mean, it is going to be crazy. We thought we knew Trinity. Trinity got rolled tonight. Competitive game against Byron Nelson. I mean, that is what we're dealing with. Carroll has been the only team, I think, that you can say that is a dominant team. I mean, we looked at Salina and Panther Creek went all 48 tonight. Right. I mean, it is crazy.
Right. And then we had a Highland Park team that can't seem to play any defense. That was incredible there. But let's go ahead, Kenny. You had something to say there.
Well, I was just going to say, and that's what South Lake Carroll and Sean, Mr. Penn not being an All-American yet. I mean, he's just a contributor. That's how good South Lake Carroll has been this year.
Let's take a look at some of these scores. As I finished saying, teams haven't been dominant. North Crowley puts a beating on Legacy to the likes of they don't ever want to feel again. 68-0, and they were the feel-good team early on in non-district, but now they're in district here, and they get North Crowley off the bat. Crowley with the big win over Weatherford. And Mansfield, look at their defense, holding the team to 12. That's step up right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Crowley, I said last week that I felt like Crowley has finally figured out their quarterback situation, and that has really kind of taken hold on this, just 40 points, and the defense has come along. That Mansfield-Saginaw-Boswell game was a little bit back and forth for a while. Mansfield pulled ahead in the second half, but, man, that game could have gone either way, it felt like at halftime.
Yep. And then you look at 4-6A here. I think that score is off there on the LD Bell game, but they did win in double overtime. Another walk-off. We talked about that. It's amazing. It's amazing what they're doing. Now you have to seriously talk about that being a playoff team right there. We may just dippy-do around that stuff right there, but they've beaten Eaton. They've beaten Keller. The Trinity game at the end of the year is going to be ridiculous. You better get there by 5 o'clock for that one because – I have an ex-wife that used to run around here, a Trinity graduate, talking about what's that smell at LD Bell. Well, you're going to be sniffing them pretty well this year because they're playing some actually football. And then we go up to the Byron Nelson game, and that thing, if it could be, it wasn't even as close as 38-13 is, and that ain't close.
What was it? South Lake Carroll had 452 yards total offense in that game. The beat just keeps rolling for them offensively with their weapons. But in the Trinity Byron Nelson game, that game was really that score is not indicative of the beatdown that Byron Nelson put on them after getting the beatdown last week. I mean, that's a big, huge rebound game for Byron Nelson.
And there's a name on Byron Nelson that you guys need to listen to besides Almanza. Nolan Hawkins has made a name for himself at receiver and DB. He's their go-to receiver. He makes a big play every game, win or lose. But go ahead, Dix. Keep going.
Well, I was just going to say that, the fact that Byron Nelson was up 31-0 there, just absolutely dominant. Trinity, and the fact that Byron Nelson, and I think this is a bigger factor than a lot of people admit, 2 weeks to get ready. I mean, they got to sit and heal up and watch that game against Trinity. So whoever gets that 2-week bye in these 9-team districts, I think that has a lot to do with the help.
And how about those Louisville Fighting Farmers getting beat at halftime? Tennell Hill steps up, makes the game-winning touchdown after they scored to make it a one-score game. Then Marcus fumbles. Louisville gets it back. Tennell takes it in with 8 seconds left. They win the game to put themselves right back at that top level there. Denton Guyer with another huge victory. They're waiting for Coppell next week, who beat Hebron. Another wild district plays right here.
Louisville outscores Marcus 27-14 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that was all fourth quarter action, wasn't it, Kenny?
Yep.
Unbelievable.
You know, I really feel like Coppell is establishing themselves. You know, it was back and forth with Hebron, but I think that they've kind of taken the next step. And I think it's a big win for Braswell. You know, Braswell's had some controversy this year and some things on social media, but that is their first win in district, and that was a convincing win over Little Elm. So I think that's going to be huge. Louisville can't be messing around like that for a half, though. They need to have a lot more consistency if they're going to make it to that next step. Because the way the rankings are looking at like right now, because of the way that North Crowley beating DeSoto and then DeSoto, Rockwall beating North Crowley, Louisville is up there at this point. Yeah, and then this whole game, it felt like except for the last 20 seconds, I'm thinking, what am I going to do with Louisville? Yeah, they got the win, and I know it's a rivalry game, but that was not very convincing.
It's a game and a half in the standings against Marcus. It's a game and a half up, not just one.
Swinging that X. Our guy, who mentioned it just earlier? Our guy PB mentioned the Plano win. They took care of Princeton because that's these games here in the middle, the Rock Hill, Plano Western. These are going to decide those last two playoff spots because Allen and Prosper are on their way for a collision course for that Crown game. But we got to figure out who's going to get another playoff spot. And if McKinney got their little butts spanked all over the place, I think you got a prompt on that one, right, Kenny?
19 yards total offense. We can't muster 2 first downs in 4 quarters. Undefeated team coming in, exposed a little tonight for sure. Allen also had, let's see here, Allen had 422 yards of offense and shutting them down for 19. That game was over before they got off the buses tonight.
Yeah. The Prosper Plano East game, the score is a little bit misleading. I posted about this on Twitter that, Prosper had really good game management. This game was 42-7 at halftime. It could have been 84-14 by the end of the third quarter, but, they kind of called back and we got a lot of subs in. I hear Allen didn't do that. I hear Allen wanted to push things, and their second team isn't much of a drop-off anyway, so that's a bit of a struggle. But one thing, get ready for this, Ward. You got to let me have my minute of homerism. With both Rock Hill and Plano winning, Plano East at 0-5 is back in full control of their destiny for the playoffs. Woo!
The guy is ridiculous.
Can I get a Plano out of here?
Good grief. Yeah, and Allen, in 6-6A, you shouldn't be close to running a running clock in the second half, but that's how they're beating these teams these days. What do we got going on 7-6A there, Dixie? Look at this mess. That's the big one right there, the Berkner-Richardson game. That's always, that's usually a kind of a – last year Richardson won that game, and now Berkner takes it this year in a very close-scoring game, 17-14. Lake Highlands, I think, is the heads and tails above everybody in this district. I think we mention that every time on there. Yeah, Jesuit got a big win, but they were playing Irving. Yeah, I think it's Lake Highlands, and then we're going to figure out this other 4 team, and maybe it's not Pierce. I don't know. Maybe it's maybe it's Berkner, Richardson, and Jesuit. What do you think there?
Well, I know one thing about Lake Highlands. If you're going to get a balance of 320 yards rushing and 250 yards in the air, you're going to beat a whole lot of people. That's for sure, exactly. Man. I mean, that's tough to defend. It doesn't matter how good your defense is.
PB got some comments for you
about how Coach Bryant needed that defining win, and he got that defining win finally. I'm very happy for him because, and PB just talked about it there, that we've been kind of talking about how Richardson felt like this might be the year. But with that, I don't know that there's been something wrong. That offense has really been struggling to get going. But a district where we're not seeing the offense struggling to get going is 8-6A Ward. You talk about how, just your camera, you got to bring that extra battery in when you're starting to deal with
absolutely. We put color bars up after highlights. My man's probably hurting his hand left and right. You look at that Grand Prairie game, another huge game by Josiah Lucas. I think he ran for 211 yards, 4 touchdowns. Haltom gets the win. They always do it in district play. I know my man Derek's watching this. Haltom's got themselves a troublesome running back by the name of Federico Roberson, and he came through for me again. Let me find that stat right there. 173, 4 touchdowns. They take down Lamar. Now, he's not the only one that was running. Lamar's Tyrone Thomas got 217, but Federico was being troublesome. That's my guy. I'm going to ride that guy to the end, even if they don't win any games. They won this one. Who knows how many more they're going to win this district.
950 yards of offense total between the two teams in that game. Like to be the stat guy in that game.
South Grand Prairie was struggling with Arlington in that game for a good chunk of the game. They had like a 24, 28-point run to kind of put a little bit of distance between them, but any given week, I feel like, when we get the dump going up this tonight, Haltom is now back in the playoffs, and they're kind of looking at Richardson saying, we want a rematch this week,
exactly.
This year.
They're putting up points. You're right, man. If I want to get quick points, I can send my shooters out to these games, and the first quarter and a half, they're good. 9-6A. We for a long while I was driving home, and I don't see it on the score here. I do see it. A long while, I thought North Garland had won. There's a little mix-up I'm driving the whole way home. I was like, what has happened here? But Wiley East did pick that one up. They got Saxe next week. Saxe edged one out against the Thursday Night Kings of Lakeview Centennial, who's got 8 Thursday games. And then there's Garland. By the way, the Wiley game, Diggs, you've been busy doing your stuff. Wiley wins 44-0 without the services of Dalen Gordon. Why do I do this fantasy thing with you, buddy? Oh, I don't even want to take a look at the beating I'm going to take next week. Team play. But go ahead, talk about this district, Kenny. What do you know?
Well, it just seems like every week we got 4 teams up there. There's 2 blowouts and there's 2 close games. And that's what it looks like I get from out of this district. It's like we know who the top dogs are.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a whole.
Do we, Kenny? Because at this point, I'm saying Naaman Forest, Garland, Saxe, Lakeview Centennial, Wiley East, all as potential playoff teams, and Rowlett looks like they're good enough to be a spoiler. So, I mean, do we know the top teams in this district?
Well, maybe it's my waning faith in Saxe. I thought at the beginning of the year that they were the cream of the cream, and it doesn't seem to be that way. So I probably need to let that misnomer go next week.
Yeah, they're struggling.
I was holding on for a while. I'm
not looking for a high scoring game next week either. When Wiley East takes on Saxe, I have a feeling it's going to be like Naaman Forest Garland. I think it's going to or Saxe Lakeview Centennial. It just doesn't seem like they can put up points. I came in hot from North 40, man. I drove in here. I didn't know if I was going to make it or not. I was at that game today, and they ran. This is another one of the teams that used their running game to handle it. We'll talk about Salina a little later on. They used their running game to handle business here. And what we don't talk a lot about with North Forney is their defense. And their defense really shut things down at Forney. You look at Rockwall taking down Royce City and then a big win for Heath. In my eyes, we talked about 6 teams fighting for 4 spots. Well, after this week, you're thinking it's North Forney and Rockwall and Heath. Longview is probably those 4 as of now. So we got some work to do with the other 2.
Don't you think Coach Webb over at Rockwall, if you would have asked him before that 3-game stretch, if he'd be 2-3, did he be happy?
That's true.
He's got to be pretty happy with that.
He has got to be very happy, right?
Not bad.
Roy City had a very respectable showing against Rockwall. I mean, Rockwall got up on him big, and Roy City kind of fought back and showed in the second half that they could compete. I feel like North Forney finally answered our call to give us 48 minutes, and they did. So I feel like every week it's going to be about the little things and the little adjustments. And when we talk about little things and little adjustments, or big things and big adjustments, let's talk about one of the games of the night with DeSoto not just beating Waxahachie, not just inching by them with a great fourth quarter play like that game against DeSoto, just an absolute top to bottom annihilation for Homecoming of a really good team that just had their program defining win.
And if you remember digging for wisdom this week, Dixie, I was like, I think DeSoto might win this one. You said, explain why. And I'm sitting there on the spot like, I don't know why. I just have a feeling that they're playing better and they're tired of getting kicked around by everybody because of their first two losses. And I thought they might win. I didn't think they were going to beat them down. I don't know if Jerry Meyer got hurt in that game, but he definitely didn't play much. He had 14 yards passing and 2 picks. If he got hurt, if anybody's at that game wants to comment on it, let me know. You go over the Cedar Hill game. At Lancaster, if you're going to make 6 turnovers, then, don't expect to win the game, because this was the game where Cedar Hill's Muhammad behind center finally had a bad game. And it didn't matter because Lancaster couldn't hold the ball. They couldn't hold on to the thing.
The thing that got me, I didn't want to go back, but Waxahachie had 153 total yards tonight, after that big win last week. And, you just can't win games and give up 548 to DeSoto. You're talking about a dominant performance by DeSoto. DeSoto is mad. Somebody woke up the Bear a little bit a couple weeks ago, and the Bear is now coming out saying, I'm going to dish out some beef.
What are you talking about, Kenny? What are you talking about? What are you talking about there?
Christopher D said Meyer played, but Christopher didn't play the entire game, because I know there's another quarterback in there that got 3 passes up. It did something happen.
You're not going to win a game anyway. It doesn't matter who you're playing. 6 turnovers.
Sure.
Yeah, big win for Cedar Hill. That pretty much gets them back into the playoff picture. But we could see now DeSoto, Duncanville, Waxahachie all going 6-1 in this district. Mesquite Horn with a very dominant win over Mesquite. Kind of an expected domination.
3-5 Division I. Neither one of those, Ryan or Alita, was worried about looking ahead, because they play each other next week. They got huge wins there. Richland takes care of Birdville in their somewhat rivalry game there. Obviously, Halston is Richland's bigger rival. And then Brewer, who we've been commenting on, hey, talk to me about Brewer Friday Night Light. There it is, man. That's another humongous score there, 63-42.
What was it, almost 1,100 yards total offense between those two, I think it was? Yeah. It's ridiculous. How long was that game?
Our guy Nolan Ruth was at that game, and there was a point where Azle got up on Brewer, and it was like 49-42, but Brewer with kind of that fourth quarter finale to get a little bit of separation. Denton Ryan, man, the defense is starting to come along. The offense is starting to click a little bit. It's like Denton Ryan is figuring things out. They started a little bit slow, and they've done this in the past, but man, I feel like Denton Ryan is starting to answer some of those questions. Richland, kind of the same way. Richland's starting to look more closer to the Alito and Denton Ryan than they are to the rest of the pack in this district.
Denton Ryan, Josiah Warmate's warming up, guys. Then he is a terror in the middle. Start to watch that. That makes them a lot better when he plays well.
Yeah, and like I said, they play next week, so I challenge Kenny to go to that game up at Collins. Kenny, I challenge Kenny. Will he go? We'll find out. All right, 4-5A Division I, another game I was at. Arlington Heights finally gave up some points. They gave up 14 to Chisholm Trail. It was actually kind of nerve-wracking because they're up 14-0. It looked like they had things going, but they really did step in on defense. When they hit hard. They're one of those fun teams that seem to go for 2 every time they score as well. Perhaps it's not a kicker type deal there. Trimble Tech got a big win over those Parrots.
How about, and tomorrow we're going to have Saginaw versus Wyatt, and that's going to be a big game. We're getting Saturday football here. I feel like we're in Houston all of a sudden, Ward, with meaningful Saturday games. I don't know what all that means.
It means something. That Lone Star, guess who's back? Guess who's back? Back again. Davion Gross is back, and he put up some crazy numbers in the receiver position. Wakeland, another nice game for Grayson Grayson Meyer, had 11 catches. Well, he's a big target there for Maples. They find him every time. Little nickel dimer there with Centennial and Sherman. And Reedy bounced back from their loss to Wakeland last week with the thumping of Lebanon Trail.
Gross 9 for 215, 2 TDs. The rich get richer real quick. Dude.
He's back.
Do you believe me now, Ward, when I'm telling you that McKinney North Lebanon Trail game is going to be a pretty competitive game next week?
It should be pretty interesting. It should be pretty interesting. I don't know if I'm sold on going yet, but it should be pretty interesting. Thursday night's
game to be there, Ward. You need to be there.
Look at you challenging back. At least I'm not going to Newman Smith Molina like some people do. You got 1,000 games to pick from in the North Texas, and you're going to Newman Smith because you can ride your bicycle there. What's going on? Blowouts that were West Mesquite took. I mean, I don't know who the fourth team is, but I don't know if it's going to be W.T. White this year because we'll have to see W.T. White and North Mesquite, see how that game goes. What did you all learn from that North Mesquite team against Creekview that tells you that they're going to come in there and take the fourth spot, or is it going to be R.L. Turner with another big win?
Well, for me, I know with Diggs, we were there with North Mesquite. It seemed like they ran out of gas in the second half. You know, they had 2 possessions where they turned the ball over on 4 downs, and Creekview was able to go right down the field and score 7 both times. That kind of just puts you into that demoralization side of things. And I think that, you know, as Diggs and I were saying a little bit after the game, we got to worry about the injuries that happened for North Mesquite last week. A lot of guys had to get, help off the field there late in the second half. They got North Mesquite plays Newman Smith next week. So that's a big swing game in that district there to determine, you know, if you're going to be second or third, or fourth. Yeah, I mean, but that's a big swing game next week. And maybe Newman Smith's catching them at the right time.
Well, I'm itching to get to 7-5A Division I. I'm itching to see that score. There it is. God bless it. And Kenny's going to tell us how much Buck Randall threw for. And I'm going to tell you every single one of those yards were completely and totally necessary if they were going to pull this win off, because that's not like some we were up 70-5 and Tyler came back. No, Tyler was up late by 2 scores in the second half, and they had to pull it off. Go ahead and give me them stats, Kenny.
675 yards total offense for Highland Park tonight, 32 first downs, 457 yards passing for our man Buck Randall.
Big.
Tyler had 550 yards total offense and 28 first downs. So, I mean, you're talking about 60 first downs in a high school football game? It's unreal, dude.
And Dixie, tell me about the significance of this Joshua win in overtime, which I think the score might be a little bit off. I don't think they won on a safety in overtime. I think it was 27-21. But tell me more about how that's how big of a win that is. Because that's right. I mean, Joshua on top, Midlothian on the bottom. That means he was at Midlothian, and they beat him in overtime.
I mean, that's it. Could have gone if it made it to the 2-point conversions in the third overtime, but I heard they won in overtime, so that could be. But but what matters is they did win, and that does completely change the district upside down. We've been talking about Joshua. You know, they opted up to get into this district, and we're kind of laughing at them. We're not laughing anymore, and I mean, we're to a point now where Midlothian's offense is good enough to play with Highland Park if they're going to give up 60 or 70 a week. Remember that game was 35-7 at one point. Highland Park was up on Tyler High, but Joshua with a huge win. And considering that Red Oak is a little bit down, we got Burleson Centennial barely beating Cleburne. This district is wide open. I think we're going to see, a 2-loss team probably is going to be your second place team. So I think Midlothian can bounce back from this, but it doesn't bode well when they lose to Joshua. And this is their second straight week where we're scratching our heads a little bit because they beat Harker Heights in a dominant fashion, and we're like, okay, that's looking good. And then losing to Joshua, okay. I mean, game on in this district. We got lots of news, lots of things to talk about, especially the dump, because this district is wide open.
Let's get down to Division II as we're running out of time here. Big offense is shown by Argyle against Colleyville Heritage. Even Brody Weaver even had a big game, but they didn't come up with the win. Seguin breaks in that Gillespie Stadium with a huge win, and then Timberview gave up some points to Everman, but they pulled off the win.
I think it was Grapevine, 4 turnovers in the game. You're not going to win the game that way. the thing about and Argyle won it at Colleyville Heritage. Why did Colleyville Heritage schedule Argyle as their homecoming?
Yeah, that's interesting.
What I'd
That's
like to
interesting.
know.
Why'd I come home for this is what they're thinking. Y'all need to throw me Everman when they're in town.
We kept talking about Argyle looking a little bit off. I feel like they finally figured it out. But now Timberview is on our watch of like, that's not the dominant kind of victory we would expect. Arlington Seguin, week in and week out, I feel like every time I'm about to write them off, they do something like what they did this week, where they just continue to impress. Right. Man, Arlington Seguin is going to – and then Mansfield Summit, I think we wrote them off and kind of started joking about how, well, this could be upset watch. An absolute dominant no-brainer win over Grapevine. Man, this district is good. I mean, 5-6 strong in this district.
So again, got Timberview next week. Blowout win by Walnut Grove. We can go through all these scores, but let's look at the Melissa one first. We're sitting there talking about we need to learn about Melissa. Well, we learned something. They have a running game. They went with Bear Tabor, and they went with the quarterback running Brett Holloway, and both of them ran for over 100 yards. And Zeandre Williams couldn't win it by himself. That's a huge win on the road right there.
Overcame 14 penalties in that game to win on the road. Not bad.
And it wasn't a turnover festival either. I feel like Melissa was just the better team. And I felt like they were a little bit deeper. And when I was talking about Lovejoy last week, I feel like Lovejoy needed that support. And I thought Melissa was going to have it. Lovejoy and Emerson now, it looks like it's going to be Lovejoy looks closer to Emerson in the bottom of this, the middle of this district, maybe not making the playoffs than they did looking at the top of the district.
Absolutely. 5-5A. South Oak Cliff with another dominating win. Woodrow Wilson as well, and a couple squeakers over there with Samuel losing to Seagoville, and then Spruce with the big. That is actually a big win over Hillcrest.
We'll have to double check that score, but there have been a couple of times where I've been like, "Oh, we got to double check the score," including what we're about to talk about in 6-5A, and the scores end up being right. So that would shock me. Spruce being at the bottom of this district, beating Hillcrest, that had a big win over Samuel. So we'll double check on that, but okay, but we'll see.
All right, let's move on. How about the Terrell win over Kaufman? I left that game. It was 14-7 at the half. They must have went absolutely nuts the second half. Terrell must have. I actually texted Coach Sedbury and said, "What kind of running game did you have going in the second half?" I think he hadn't got back to me yet. But Midlothian Heritage with a huge win over Ennis. They're trying to cement themselves as number one in this district.
Absolutely. That's a beatdown for them. I did not expect them to put up 56 tonight. No, I did not.
They're both battling. I mean, they both put up 56, Midlothian Heritage versus Terrell. It's a fun battle to see who's going to be number one. But remember where we talked about in the podcast, I was worried about Crandall and their injuries. And I think that score against Corsicana lets me know that the injury bug may be a little bit closer. Hopefully they get healthy. But they might have enough wins and then they get healthy as the playoffs. Right now, so yeah. You can't apologize for wins, as some people say, even though I think you can at some point.
True. Let's go through some of these 4 ones quickly. We'll kind of, Southwest was giving Springtown all kinds of trouble in the first half. That was a little bit wild. We had the country roads over there at Bridgeport to watch Ranchview just do whatever they wanted to against them. They shut them down a little later.
Kennedale with a big bounce back.
They bounced back. We slowed down at that Salina game because my guy that was there tells me that Salina pulled out the old Redskins John Riggin days. They ran the ball at 3 yards in a cloud of dust down the stretch behind behind Kane and Gutierrez, and they scored that last touchdown to put them ahead because this thing also was back and forth. I also heard that Graylin Fry got hurt in that game as well. So that
Gutierrez, one of the most underrated backs around, there's for sure. And Paris, big win for Paris over Lake Dallas.
Yep,
big win.
Got Carter over North Dallas, Kimball, and Wilmer Hutchins winning Lincoln. I think those are going to be your 4 teams in District 8 4A. Brock with a big win over Prosper Richland. Eagle Mountain taking care of business over Benbrook, 46-15. How about if this Alvarado Glenrose score is right? We've been burying Glenrose and talking about how Alvarado is looking to take that next step. That is a huge score right there. Even if Glenrose, if that is accurate, Glenrose. Woo.
The 70 burger from Robinson. Sanger.
How about my
Keep an eye-
Crum team? People give me grief about ranking Crum. That's a good team.
Crum and Sanger are really good teams, next door neighbors. Those are really good football
You had
teams.
to watch out for Pleasant Grove in this one, and they
And what about Sunnyvale? I know, my man Sunnyvale. Gosh, I brag on them all week, and they come up on the
talking about
screen.
Carson Maupin or was it Maupin? And they couldn't. They got taken down there. You know, I don't know. You don't have the score up there, but Life Oak when it's maybe coming later. But Life Oak Cliff played Pottsboro very tight.
Paradise with the big win on the road at Vernon. Vernon really
Look at
beating them.
we got it up there. Pottsboro.
There it is. Real
49.
close. Really close game. All right, we got 10 seconds before Diggs takes over and hits the dump. Another crazy week. I can't wait for week 6. We'll figure it out next week, but thank you guys for joining us.
We know nothing. We're sorry.
I don't know anything. South Lake Carroll's good.